I just had a conversation with Dirk from Immigrate. He's a specialist here in Canada that helps guide people through the immigration process. And in our conversation, we talked about immigration in general and some of the reasons why someone might choose Saskatchewan over Ontario or vice versa. And we also talked about some things that even surprised me, that healthcare isn't the same for everyone, and yes, can depend on the province that you're selecting. Here's that conversation.
Well, personally, and that might be, maybe it's my bias.
All right, man. So first of all, thanks for joining me on the channel. It's awesome that you're willing to share your expertise. I know when I was doing a lot of research for this video, because I'm like, I need to know more about immigration. I need to know more about the process of coming to Canada, and more importantly, some of the things that first happen when they get here. And I was like, I don't know which guy to call other than Dirk, because Dirk, of course, you are the foremost or one of the foremost specialists when it comes to immigration in Canada. So first of all, thanks for joining us on the channel. Obviously, immigration has been in the news quite a bit. I mean, like for the last year, we've seen, just record number of immigrants coming through the country and stuff like that. So, where are these immigrants coming from? What kind of immigration levels are we seeing? And how does this different than, what we might have seen in the past?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. First off, I do appreciate it, and it's good to see you. Really, it boils down to pre-pandemic. There was a lot of foreign workers working here. The program was working pretty good. Once the pandemic hit, the government really kind of shut the doors on new people coming unless it was for essential occupations. And then they shifted the focus to keeping people in Canada. So a
Okay.
lot of the people that were temporary foreign workers in Canada, they were able to get permanent residence through the express entry program, which they essentially wiped the pool out. 75 points is the lowest you can get. They basically invited everybody that had 75 points. So if you had English and you qualified, you got in.
Hmm.
And the people that didn't get in, they created another program called TR to PR, which was temporary resident to permanent resident, which really wiped out a lot of the rest. The low skilled workers, semi skilled workers, they were able to get into that program if they had English. So they got their permanent residence as well. So it really shifted everything. Where now we have a lot of permanent residents because that was the shift. But we don't have a lot of foreign workers, and the stats are, I think there was like 85,000 in pre-pandemic. Now there's 200 or 2015, but now there's like 220,000 or something. Pretty significant amount of foreign workers that are coming, but it's needed. There's
Yeah.
over a million jobs available. There's not a lot of people available to do the work, and there's a generational talent shortage. And what we've been seeing is that there's a lot of people that baby boomers and generations before the baby boomers, they didn't, the frequency that they're on was disrupted, where they were used to going into work every single day. They had their routines. The routine got disrupted. A lot of those people didn't want to come back to work, or they only wanted to come back remotely, or they came back as contractors. There's a generational labor shortage due to multiple factors. One, not a lot of foreign workers being here, and a lot of people retiring is
Right.
the other one.
Yeah, and we're noticing that too in the especially in the housing sector. You just have like the amount of housing projects that are delayed right now because of missing plumbers and missing electricians and missing framers and missing roofers. Like all of those laborers are just like there seems to be this giant vacuum that we're missing, especially since a lot of these people who have come to this country, they need housing, right? Just like anybody else, right? And we're noticing that there's a lot of pressure on that housing. So are you noticing that with these immigrants that are, a lot of them seem like they were originally here from the pandemic and stuff, and we're just converting them into citizens, into primary residences. But are you noticing that, the focus of our immigration policies, et cetera, do they skew more blue collar? Do they skew more white collar? I'm led to believe they skew more white collar, but that like we should be probably adjusting that to blue collar, but maybe you would know more.
Well, previously the express entry program was just points based, so it was just
Okay.
based on people's human capital. It didn't matter what their occupation was. It was if you had the right human capital, you had the right points, you got selected.
Oh, interesting.
But as you'll see in the news, there's a lot of taxi drivers that have master's degrees or doctorate
Yeah,
degrees.
right.
Well, it's because there weren't a lot of jobs for those people because it wasn't not occupation specific. The government this year did shift to a knock specific or occupation specific draws, which should help move things back and shift the pendulum back to
Okay.
really bringing in the people that the country needs, not just smart people, so to speak.
Right. Well, I just even remember like I was taking an Uber one time to to go to a conference, and I was like, "Oh, like what did you do back home?" He was like, "Oh, I was like a heart surgeon." Like, what the hell are you driving an Uber for? I'm like, what? Like, and but there's like a whole requalification process. There's a whole so like any newcomers that are coming to Canada, what does that look like? Like, what kind of educational criteria? Like, let's say they are a heart surgeon. What do they have to do to become a heart surgeon again? There's got to be some
Well,
kind of process.
Canada's kind of shifted their focus to making sure that people either have English or French.
Okay.
So there is a big push for French. There's a program called Francophone's Significant Benefit Program,
Okay.
which allows French speaking people to apply without having cutting all the red tape, just with a job offer, as long as they're going to a non-French speaking place. So
Oh, interesting.
there's a big push for that right now. There's
So if you're
also
French going to a non-French place, then
there's
oh,
it's easier, yeah. So
interesting. Okay.
that's a perk. All the provinces have been able to get more nomination spots, so they have more selection criteria, and they have a little bit more autonomy. So that's
Okay.
helping as well. So they can do a lot more of their own selection of what they need and what they determine is needed. So
Yeah.
that's been a positive change as well. But yeah, like as per credential assessments, it depends on which occupation, because you have your tradespeople and then you have as you call it, the white collar people.
Hmm.
There is re-credentialing, reassessments, re-education periods, but it really depends on the occupation and the occupation type. Also, the province. Some provinces don't have as strict of criteria for certain occupations, such as trades, whereas Alberta has 48 occupations that are compulsory trades. There's other provinces that have a lot less.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Okay.
right. But then federally, like doctors and nurses, they have very similar criteria that has to be met across the provinces. And Saskatchewan is working at streamlining the nursing credential assessments right now and making it easier and a little bit quicker, which I see other provinces doing as well.
So these provinces do have the capacity of adjusting their own levers to some extent of the different types of things that they want, right? And so if you're an immigrant and you're coming to Canada, what then does that mean? Like when it comes to province selection, are you doing it because you're like, man, I just love Ontario, or man, I got family in Vancouver, or man, I love the -40 in Saskatchewan. I just have to go there. Are they choosing it because like of those like specific things like certain geography, or are they choosing it because they've got family there, or are they choosing it because that's just where the options are?
Well, first off, I think they're choosing Saskatchewan because of the plus 30 and 100,000 lakes and the one lake for every 12 people.
Yeah,
Personally,
yeah.
that may be,
It's not the
maybe it's
-40.
biased,
That's so weird.
right? It's probably not that, because it gets -40 just about everywhere in Canada. So I don't
Yeah,
think
that's fair. That's fair.
I don't think that's too much of an issue. But community definitely plays a big factor in people when they want to move over, family as well.
Mm,
That I think from my personal experience, that's a number one choice for most people, is to be close to their family. Next,
mm.
be in a immersed into a community that's similar to what they where they came from.
Yeah,
So I think
right.
that's a big one. Um, you'll see in major city centers, even in Saskatoon and other places, that the communities are growing significantly, which is great.
Yeah,
It's what we need. We need to have the communities that are coming in, not only coming to work, but buying businesses and starting businesses here. I think that's
yeah,
a critical piece, because you can't just have all workers and no businesses that are owned by them,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
In order to create a community, you have to have a little bit of everything.
Well, that's what I
Um,
think I find interesting because, like, even with some of the people that we've helped immigrate over, like, and help buy houses and stuff like that, you'll find that some of them, like, are coming because they're becoming business owners, and some of them are buying nail salons, and some of them are buying, software businesses, and some of them are buying, like, they're entrepreneurs in nature for some of these people, and it's really cool. And then when you find out where they're moving, it's like, oh, like, what street are you buying on? You're like, man, that's a really Filipino street, right? And you'll have like a whole street of just Filipino people. I'm like, it's cool though that they have this sense of community, right? Like they're all neighbors to each other. You literally like open the doors and it's just like it's your culture outside of that door, even though like there's all these like little microcosms, which I think is really, really cool.
yeah. So, and if they don't have that community, or if they don't have that family, really boils down to the program that allow them in. Right there,
Mm,
each program is a little bit different. There's the express entry program, then there's provincial nominee programs, which allow them to come in as well. Then there's the federal program with labor market opinion applications, which give them the ability to get work permits. So
Okay.
there's a lot of different options and streams that can get them into the country. Keeping people in is a different story. In Ontario, you're
Interesting.
seeing really high points totals. So a lot of people that are coming in there, yes, it's a first choice for a lot of people, but getting permanent residence is a little bit more challenging than other provinces. Same as BC.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though they're doing NOC specific draws or occupation specific draws in BC, it still is pretty hard to get to the points totals that they're selecting. Whereas Saskatchewan, it's not a point. It is a points based system, but it's if you hit the threshold, you get in.
Oh, interesting.
Or
Yeah.
when you have a job, and if it's a non-job based, it's based on human capital plus occupation. So
Mm.
it's a combination of multiple things, but really what it boils down to, and this is something that we put onto our platform just recently, is points calculators for each province.
Yeah. I
That
was literally just
if
about
you
to
wanna
ask.
take a look, like maybe Ontario is your first choice, but holy cow, I don't have a chance. But maybe I qualify from in Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Alberta. Okay, well I never thought of that. Well, now I know that that's a better option. It is an option for
Mm.
me and something that I might want to consider.
So these points, right? Because you said there's a calculator on their website, and for anybody who's watching, I'll make sure to put that in the description of this video so that they can go and calculate their own points total and stuff. That's a really cool function, a really cool feature. What goes into these points? Like, what are some of the things that are considered for getting to their point totals?
Okay, well, they're all a little bit, a little bit different, but they follow the same kind of patterns. There's the age,
Okay.
education level, language ability, experience. Those are the typical ones
Oh yeah. Okay.
that really bring your points up or down. And sometimes there's family. If family members are in the province, you get extra points for that. Or
Mm.
if you've already been there and lived there or worked there or studied there, you get extra points for that. So
Oh yeah. Okay.
but the major ones are, the common human capital components.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of that, like, how easy is it compared to, say, other countries? Like, let's say the United States. Is it easier to come into Canada than it is the United States? Or, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, I can't speak on many other countries or
Right.
and
But let's compare it to the States if you know them.
well, not talking about immigration, but just statistics on alone. Their unemployment rate's much lower, but their immigration program only allows 65,000 foreign workers.
Oh, wow.
Whereas we're bringing in hundreds of thousands, they're not bringing in a lot. So,
Yeah. Right.
um,
Okay.
and until they have some consensus on immigration changes that are adopted by everybody in their government,
Mm.
nothing's really going to change.
Yeah. Right.
So, do they need to make some changes? Probably. Can they? Well, once they get everybody to agree on some, that would be great. But that's
Yeah.
not
Right.
happening anytime soon, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. So then you had made a comment about keeping them, right? And that's actually why I was asking that question first, because what did you mean by keeping? So they come here, like, is there a certain point that we're losing these immigrants? And if so, like, where are they going?
Well, we're bringing in way too many international students right now. So from what I'm reading,
Okay.
to the point where they believe that they're going to get this great job coming out of university, just like most of the students, when we were growing up,
That was
right?
me. That was
Yeah,
me when I graduated. I was like, I'm gonna kick ass.
yeah. So they're getting that same kind of treatment that we were getting when we were younger.
Yeah,
Where
right.
a little bit of a wake up call when you're coming out of school, but it really boils down to how much research did they do ahead of time? Did they actually look for
Mm.
jobs? Did they see what employment opportunities are going to be when they're done? Like probably not, but
Yeah,
they're just
right.
pretty excited that they got accepted to a school and somebody sold them on a dream and then they got their dream and they're here.
Yeah.
So that's a big one, but I don't know. It's tough to really dig into that because every person's different,
Right, of course. Yeah. I
right?
just thought maybe there was like some kind of like wide sweeping trend that you might have been seeing. Because even like, you talk about the students, and I kind of know what you mean, because even when I was graduating, I had a lot of friends that were international students. Those were my people. Like that was like those were the fun people to hang out with, because they're just like teaching you all sorts of new stuff and how to say things in different languages. Most of them inappropriate, but hey, it was fun, right? And not a single one of them, ended up staying in Canada. Within 5 years, all of those friends had moved back to either their country or to some other place in the world. And I was like, well, why didn't they stay here? And most of the time, you're right, it's because they just had job opportunities elsewhere. And the foreign education coming to Canada and being educated here was like a really, really big plus in landing some of those jobs back home.
Yeah, that is a big thing. But I think the government's really focusing on trying to keep all the people that are here to stay here,
Oh yeah, okay,
which is good.
yeah, and it makes sense.
Yeah. So and it just boils down to the fact that every program they make can't fit everybody.
Right.
So there's always going to be some sort of group that's potentially left out until they create another program. But the nice thing is that every time the government sneezes, they make a change.
Right.
So there's constantly changes going on. Right? There's now a new immigration program potentially for employers that can fast track, and
Yeah.
it's every time you turn the corner, there's another change, or there's another minister, and then there's more changes. And
well, like I said, when I started doing the research, because I was like, I need to know more about like immigration and some of the trends. Like honestly, I was 3 pages in and I already felt lost. I was like, I feel like I know less than I did when I started, because I'm like, there just seems like there's so many friggin' programs that you can go towards, right? And so, like, let's say someone is trying to immigrate to Canada. What are some of the things that they can do to make that easier? Like, obviously, your website would be a great start, right?
well, yeah, of course. But no, not tune my own horn, but like that's definitely what it's all about. And we're trying to do at Immigrate Software is make immigration affordable and accessible anywhere in the world. And
Right.
what we found is that the most of the immigration consultants that are experts in Canada are in Canada. They're not abroad. So the fact that we are able to bring experts into one platform and let anybody anywhere in the world match up with the right expert in the right province to get industry info and province specific information from an expert really gives them an advantage that they didn't have before. Because when you're abroad and you're trying to contact immigration, you can't. They don't answer the phone. And then when you contact the consulate, they won't. They don't help. And then when you call the VAC office, they don't help. So you're either turning to a guy that has a sign on the street that's probably not regulated, not registered, not insured,
Yeah. Right.
that just put a sign on a building and hoping and praying that he knows what he's talking about. Or you can actually go on to a platform now, which there wasn't before, to really find that right expert and get matched with the right person, possibly with the right language,
Yeah.
and get that information about that place. But it really boils down to how much research are you doing, right? Do you know how many jobs there are? Do you know if you have an opportunity? Do you know if that you have a chance? Have you checked Job Bank and seen how many opportunities there are in Canada? Are you looking in the right province that actually matches with the opportunities? So say if you're a welder and you're like, oh, well, I want to go to, Nunavut. Well, there's no welding jobs there. Well, maybe that's not the right spot. Right. But then you see there's, 700 welding jobs in Alberta. Well, maybe you need to shift your focus.
Yeah. Right.
So, it really boils down to how much research a person does. But that's with any purchase that you're doing or any time you're doing any move, period. Right. You got to do your research. And, oftentimes what people need to be aware of is when you're hearing stuff that's too good to be true, it often is. And when it's too good to be true, are you getting a second opinion? Right? Is anybody backing it up and telling you that that's actually true?
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, to your credit, you're obviously providing a lot of resources for these immigrants, and it's a spot. Is there like a ton of resources that they can go to that are present on your website as well? Like if they show up there, do you have like links and stuff to like Job Bank and stuff like that, so they can do some of this research?
We have a couple links on there to make it easy for them. But really, what they should be going into the different provinces, going into the governments, going into the tourisms, going into these different websites, taking a look, like, what's the community like? Are there any houses? What's the housing affordability? Is there any housing at all? What's the rental market like? Can I get a place to live close to where
they afford life once they get here?
Yeah, like there's the basic. It's not just about getting a job, but is it the right place? Is there a place for you to live? Is there the amenities? Is there a community? Are there similarities to what you like doing?
When that so question for you, when that foreign buyers ban first came into effect, that obviously didn't impact too much of your business because the people you're dealing with are planning on immigrating, so they either have the PR status or the citizenships or whatever. They're going for those citizenships that would have otherwise made it so that they would have been exempt from that. But when that was first released and rolled out, was there a lot of feeling towards, the group that you help, these immigrants that are coming into the country, that maybe Canada was anti-immigrant, or was that ever a sentiment, or were they just like, yeah, we understand that why they're doing what they're doing?
Well, I don't have that much experience with that, so to speak. I
Okay.
haven't seen a curtail of people not wanting to make Canada their home because of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Canada is still one of the number one places in the world to live. It hasn't changed. It's still in the top five for sure. Uh, People want to have clean water, clean air. They want to have safety. They want to have free education. They want to have free healthcare. People want it's either for themselves or their kids or their family,
Yeah.
or they're coming to make money here and send money home to support their family.
Right.
There's lots of different reasons why people come here.
Speaking of the healthcare side of things, what other healthcare services are available? Like, what healthcare services are available to newcomers?
Well, that's a great question. In Saskatchewan, as soon as you land, you can essentially apply for e-health, and then you can
Oh,
get covered immediately.
wow,
Other
really?
provinces, you have to wait 6 months. You have to buy health insurance until you qualify for the provincial health coverage,
Hmm.
and then benefits kick in where you work sometimes, and they can kick in immediately, 3 months, 6 months, and those help support and cover those costs too. But each province is a little bit different.
Interesting. That I did not know. That's interesting. So obviously, for Saskatchewan, if you're if you're looking for healthcare, that's the place that you go. You go to Saskatchewan. So they've landed. Maybe, I mean, a lot of these people are already here, but they're on their quest for citizenship. What's three things that they can do to make life easier for them?
Get involved in the community. I think that's number one. I
A
think it's
support
really
group.
important. Yeah, not only a support group, but like if you like soccer, join a soccer team. If you
Mm,
like curling, join a curling team. Like get involved in the community. Get to make some friends, and so you're not just going home and going to work and going home and going to
mm.
work. That's the
Hey,
that's
that's
the
a
opposite
good
of fun, in my opinion. Right? Going to the tourism office, like making plans to go hiking or go boating or go to a beach or go skiing, always having, because there's lots to do.
right.
I think so. Community is number one, getting involved in the community, getting out there, making friends. I think that's a critical piece. Normally when you first come into a country, you have that honeymoon phase where you're super excited and it's all awesome. But if you're not doing anything, then what happens is you're always talking to your friends back home, and they're telling you, "Oh, I went to this festival, I went to that, I went did this,
That's
did that,"
interesting.
and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
it gets to like you get that like, "Oh, I'm missing home," and you kind of have that like that big purchase
FOMO.
here,
Yeah.
yeah, right, and then you're like, "Oh, I really miss that," and it kind of gives you that that sentiment of "I wish I was home" kind of thing.
Yeah. That
Um,
makes sense.
right? So and it goes both ways. Like when I went and I taught English in Korea, same thing happened. You're super excited, super pumped. You get into the community, start playing basketball, you start doing all these things, start join a band, and it's awesome. But eventually, it's like, oh, all your friends are doing the same stuff, and you hear about all these these concerts they're going to, and all these things that's happening. It's like, oh, I wish I was home, and it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Right.
um, so the more you have the more you immerse yourself in the community, the more stories you get to tell, right?
Yeah. That's
And
right. Yep.
and I think that makes the biggest difference.
Interesting. Okay. So, what kind of support services are available for people that are newcomers to Canada?
Well, there's non-for-profits that help out with language ability, with settlement. There's like open door societies
Okay.
and whatnot that actually help newcomers and refugees come in. There's communities. The Ukrainian community's done a really great job helping other people from the Ukraine come in and immerse themselves in society
Mm,
and whatnot,
that's
which has been
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty important parts. And then there's settlement services and settlement centers that are popping up all the time.
Okay.
In Saskatchewan, there used to be, bands of one, right? Now they have like 7, 8 people in each one, so they can actually
Oh, yeah.
provide
Cool.
more services, which is great. But I can only really speak about Saskatchewan because this is where I'm from and this is where my heart lies. But I'm sure there's other communities and other governments and other provinces that have support and settlement services available that are free to help people with these types of things. And like we have a newcomer center here in Saskatoon that you can walk in and you can instantly see that there's like you can join teams and you can get all your
Oh, that's
driver's license
cool.
stuff, and you can get all the health stuff, and you can find out which doctors are taking patients, and you can find out where there's accommodation and where there's how to pretty much everything's in one place,
Yeah,
right?
if your staff can give me a list of that, that'd be awesome. I'll also throw that in the description because I think anybody who's thinking of coming to Saskatchewan as an example could benefit a lot from that list. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because like you go in there and it's actually like they give you like a printout, right? And you go and fill out some stuff. You can do a language assessment, and they'll go and walk you through a checklist of exactly what you need to do, and give you all the support, give you all the stuff that you need to do, and pamphlets and brochures and tourism stuff, and like you get fully loaded when you leave. But once again, it comes down to like, are the people taking the initiative? Are they actually like reaching out? Have they done any research?